WrestleMania Goes Hollywood. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to another edition of WrestleMania Review Series. And this time we are looking at WrestleMania 21, where it takes place in Los Angeles. They went the whole Hollywood route. They had like the red carpet. I like what they did with each match. They had like the lettering, like if it was like a movie theater, like a drive-in. Yeah, with depending on what match, it will say like JBL versus John Cena, Triple H versus Batista. You get the gist. Of course, how can we forget about the movie parodies that they did? Stone Cold did Gladiator, Eddie and Booker did Pulp Fiction, Kurt Angle's When Harry Met Sally. All these amazing ones. I can go on, but I'm tired, so let's just keep going on with the show. Funny enough, they didn't get a celebrity to sing America the Beautiful. They just stuck with Lillian Garcia, who I like, and she's an amazing singer. I would have thought that they were going to use a celebrity, given just the fact that they are in Hollywood. Before I even start talking about the show, let me just talk about how I even became a wrestling fan, or how I even found out about professional wrestling. Now, in 2005, I was only 6 years old, so I don't really have that much of a good memory of it. And I actually didn't really watch this show until like maybe like a year later, because the way I found out about wrestling, my friend Max, shout out to you, Max, had a VHS of WrestleMania 21. He would play it a lot. He really was a big wrestling fan at the time. I didn't really get into wrestling until years later. My cousin got me into wrestling, which we'll get to when we get to it. Um, but I was definitely, it was really cool to see his excitement for professional wrestling. I knew some of the guys. I knew who Rey Mysterio was. I knew who John Cena was. Um, Typical guys, but his favorite wrestler was Rey Mysterio, so it was very fitting that we got to see him on the show, and I was thoroughly entertained with what I remembered as a kid watching this show. But just seeing my friends' excitement, I was like, okay, it's not that big of a deal. But over time, I'm just like, yo, this stuff is awesome. And then eventually I became a wrestling fan. Anyways, let's just kick it off. This show was really good. I would have thought that some of these matches would have been wrestled different given the story leading up to it. And you'll understand what I mean when I say that when we get to those matches. But for the most part, I was thoroughly entertained. There's not really a terrible match on this show, except one, and it's not really a wrestling match, it's a sumo match. For the most part, through and through, this was a great show. The first match was Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio, SmackDown WWE Tag Team Champion versus SmackDown WWE Tag Team Champion. Both men were the tag team champs. They wanted to prove themselves. And this was basically the start of their upcoming feud, where eventually Eddie Guerrero wants to take custody of Dominic, saying that he's the real father, saying that his wife had an affair, and Dominic is actually a Guerrero, not a Mysterio, which is funny, foreshadowing what Dominic Mysterio becomes years later. This was a good match. Obviously, they've had better matches before and after this match. But this one was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I was very satisfied that we actually got to see Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero in a WrestleMania. That is just awesome to see. And giving the victory to Rey Mysterio meant a lot because, like I said, he is a hometown hero. He is from California. My hometown hero, San Diego, represent. Um, and I can't really get mad about this. A really enjoyable match, and this was easily going to be the start to the push of Rey Mysterio as a top tier guy. On to a match that I wish never got cut out of WrestleMania, and that is the Money in the Bank ladder match. I feel like WrestleMania has lost a lot of touch ever since Money in the Bank was taken out of it, because now we're at a point where we're just trying to fill up the card with a bunch of guys who deserve to be on the card. And the story behind Money in the Bank is a very interesting one. Jericho has said in his podcast it was supposed to be him, Benoit, and Edge in a triple threat submission match, but Edge didn't have a submission. Um, they're gonna take the belt off Shelton Benjamin, make that a match. We They still weren't sure what they were gonna do, so then they had the idea of having like a contract ladder match where the winner can win or get a future world title shot. Eventually, the idea was let's make it a contract and then we can cash it in like Money in a Bank. And sure enough, this was brilliant. And funny enough, the winner didn't even want to be a part of it. Let's just talk about these competitors. We had Chris Jericho, Edge, Shelton Benjamin, Christian, Chris Benoit, and Kane. Six of your top mid carders in the Raw division. Um, I thought this was well executed, hands down. For me, maybe the best Money in a Bank ladder match. I have to go back and watch it, but this one was just so timeless because it was the first one. The favorites were Jericho, Benoit, and Kane, who were already world champions up to this point. Shelton Benjamin was the Intercontinental Champion. He was on his way to becoming the top star, even though he never did, unfortunately. But he was the MVP of this match. There's a part where he runs to a ladder and does a clothesline to Jericho. Benoit has this sick spot where he does the headbutt from the top of a ladder onto Kane. Christian being the cowardly heel. Everybody played their role correctly, and fortunately, they gave it to the correct guy, and that, of course, being Edge. Um, Edge didn't even want to be a part of this match. It's a funny story. He even regrets saying that, like, I wish I wasn't a part of this match. But it ended up being the best thing that happened for him because I miss when Money in a Bank was establishing a new guy in the company and making that person into the megastar that they are today. I can't really get mad about this. This is one of my favorite matches of the entire show, and it was really good to just have just some of your top mid carders that deserve to be on the card, be showcased in a way like this, and then it ended up paying up full price, and it's became tradition moving forward for the next until WrestleMania 26, of course, and then Money in the Bank became its own pay per view, and it became something that we all know and love today. For the first Money in the Bank, this one top tier. And side note, one of my favorite entrances of this entire night was Kane with the flaming ladders, and then the match just kicks off with all of them going after Kane, given that he's the big man. I love this match. Go out of your way and watch it. It's hands down. I think it's gonna be for me the best Money in a Bank ladder match. I don't think any other Money in a Bank ladder match has ever topped it. We've had some good ones, but this one for me will always be my favorite. After the Money in a Bank ladder match, we had Eugene just coming out, being very excited to be at WrestleMania. He shares about his favorite moment, WrestleMania 3, when King Kong Bundy fought a bunch of little people. It was funny for what it was. Then Muhammad Hassan and Davari come out. Oh, someone's gonna have to come save him, and that somebody is Hulk Hogan. Basically the All American versus the Anti Americans. It was a good markout moment. Cool for Hulk Hogan, who had just been inducted into the Hall of Fame. We'll get to that when we get to it. Great stuff here. Undertaker versus Randy Orton. At this point, the streak became a thing. Um, Randy Orton was the legend killer, so he had a viable shot at beating the Undertaker. He was 12-0 at this point, and it could have been 12-1. Word going around is that Randy Orton was supposed to win, but there was word going around that Randy Orton was very tough to work with. He was late to rehearsals. He was very unprofessional with Mark Calloway, the Undertaker. So unfortunately, despite all of that, we still got a kick-ass match out of it, and the streak continued to 13-0. I was very happy with the match that we got, and it really made Randy a star because Randy was on the verge of getting let go because in 2004 he won the world title, but then Triple H had to bury him, and Randy Orton was just not a viable babyface. He was more over as a heel, and so then they brought him back as a heel, and then he took on the Undertaker. Cowboy Bob Orton interfered in this match, which worked out to nothing. My favorite moment of the match, and we all know it, Undertaker chokeslams Randy. Randy Orton reverses it into an RKO, the beginning of the RKO from out of nowhere. But Randy Orton was still no good for The Undertaker. And luckily, Randy Orton was able to build himself back up, because this was the savior of his entire career. Without this feud, Randy Orton would have just been an afterthought. And luckily, Randy Orton does get his victory once again at SummerSlam. They have the 2-on-1 casket match at either No Mercy or Unforgiven. I don't remember. And then we have the epic Hell in a Cell match at Armageddon to close off the year. That this is one of my favorite feuds. One of the more underrated feuds for the Undertaker, but definitely Randy Orton's OG best feuds of all time. Trish Stratus versus Christy Hemme. This was okay for the women's championship. It was very clear that they wanted to do Trish versus Lita, but Lita wasn't medically cleared. So we just had Christy Hemme and then Lita on ringside, and okay, fine. Trish Stratus gets the victory, but it was fine for what it was. I really didn't care much for this match, unfortunately. But the match that I do care about is this 30-minute classic between Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle. This is when they started doing the whole SmackDown versus Raw. The first time they did it was Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, but that match was terrible. We don't talk about that. This match was awesome. It kicked off in the Royal Rumble. Shawn eliminated Angle. Kurt Angle got pissed. He throws him. He brings back 1996, where he's like, "Oh, everybody's talking about Shawn Michaels jumping up the rafters, going the distance with Bret the Hitman Hart, and becoming world champion. That was the same year that I won my Olympic gold medal. I should be the one that people should be talking about." And Kurt Angle tries to surpass Shawn Michaels in every way, shape, or form, putting the ankle lock on Sensational Sherry, who was his manager at the time. It was Kurt Angle versus Marty Jannetty. A very underrated match that you should go back and watch. Who can forget Sexy Kurt? That was probably one of the best parts of this entire feud. And man, the promo work with these guys was great. Kurt Angle practically carried it. As far as the feud goes, Shawn Michaels was already established. It was just a matter of how good he was going to be in this match. And man, he wasn't just good. He wasn't just great. He wasn't just phenomenal. He was a beast. One of the most outstanding performances of all time. They went balls to the walls from counters, kickouts. This was a masterpiece of a match. This was just how you build wrestling. One of my favorite moments was when Kurt Angle puts down the singlet. Basically, when he does that, that means shit's about to go down. He puts him back on, then he takes him back off again. That was a funny moment. Sweet chin musics, ankle locks, reversals. Kurt Angle was brutal in this match. There was a part where Shawn Michaels was about to do a dive. Kurt Angle catches him to a reverse suplex from the top of the rope. It was badass. They go to the outside, breaking announce tables. Man, this is just out of control. If you haven't seen this match, you gotta go out of your way and watch this. This was a pure masterpiece. And the right guy went over. Kurt Angle finally made somebody tap out at WrestleMania. It's just been roll-up victories. It's just been either he loses or he wins by roll-up. So he finally got a legit victory out of somebody, and that somebody is Shawn Michaels, the well-established veteran, Mr. WrestleMania. This was also the debut of Shawn Michaels in the like baggy pants. It wasn't no longer tights, and I like this look for Shawn Michaels. It was a way much better look, and especially at his age at this point. Again, one of the greatest matches of all time. Go out of your way and watch it. Piper's Pit with special guest Stone Cold Steve Austin. Two badasses. Two great trash talkers. This was going to be entertaining. Roddy Piper smacks Stone Cold. Stone Cold starts smacking Roddy Piper. Then Carlito comes out. talks about how we don't need these legends. We should be focusing on the new talent, and definitely we need to focus on people who are cool. Roddy Piper takes the apple, bites it, spits on Carlito. Stone Cold beats up Carlito, stunner. Roddy Piper and Stone Cold are about to celebrate with some beers, and in typical fashion, Stone Cold finishes his beer, stuns Roddy Piper. Good moment. Nice to see Stone Cold and Roddy Piper, so can't really get mad about that. One thing I could get mad about is the next match, a sumo match between the Big Show and Aki Bono. I don't know what was the purpose of this. It was just for entertainment value. No one really followed sumo wrestling. Having Big Show there just to have him on the show, kind of embarrassing. He went from headlining WrestleMania to putting over the young guys to now putting over Aki Bono. Not for me. WWE Championship match. We got JBL versus John Cena. And this was the match where I started questioning the booking decision, because the story going around was that JBL and his faction, I forgot the name of their faction, they are constantly getting the upper hand. They burned the spinner US belt from him. They just tortured John Cena, and John Cena's ready to just brutalize JBL, and they have the story of like, oh, you guys cannot touch until WrestleMania, until that bell rings at WrestleMania, and we eventually get to it. Now, for a match where John Cena cannot put his hands on JBL, you would think that the second that the bell rang, John Cena was just gonna go ballistic and just start tearing him apart. No, they go the typical wrestling route where they're doing rest holds, they're throwing each other from one rope to another. I didn't like that. It should have just been a flat out brawl with these two. And then where was the interference? Up to this point, JBL gets his people interfering. The Basham brothers and Orlando Jordan. Where were they? I mean, Orlando Jordan was in the arena. I don't know what they were thinking. If they weren't gonna do that, how cool would it have been? They did this in TLC 2010, where when it was Wade Barrett versus John Cena. John Cena took out all the Nexus one by one. Why didn't they do that here, where throughout the night we find the Basham brothers beat up, we find Orlando Jordan beat up, and then John Cena says, "You and me in the ring next," something like that. That would have been cool. But they didn't do that, so it made that pointless. But of course, the right guy went over. John Cena is your new WWE champion, and I was so happy for this moment. I was very satisfied to watch John Cena get the WWE championship. I just wish that this match was better. And these guys do have good chemistry. They have an amazing match at Judgment Day in a couple months. They had some pretty solid matches in 2008, but this was definitely their weakest match, which is weird to say. I really do wish that we had gotten a better payoff, because JBL was over heel. Like, he was just hated, the wrestling god. How do you go from Bradshaw, one half of the APA, playing poker, being a joke of a wrestler, to the WWE champion? That is insane. And all kudos to Bradshaw. I know he's not a good dude. He can be kind of a jerk. I've seen him in interviews, but it worked to his advantage. But man, do I wish this payoff felt a little bit better. I didn't like that it was just a wrestling match. And to top it off, it was 11 minutes. This should have gone, honestly, this could have gone 6 minutes of John Cena just beating up JBL. And then John Cena gets the FU on JBL, 1, 2, 3. Like, I don't know. Something about the wrestling style. You could have had JBL get the advantage from time to time, but it should have just been just him, without us thinking about where's Orlando Jordan, where's the Basham Brothers. That kind of took me away from it. And I didn't like that personally. Correct winner, but not the best match, if I'm being honest. Almost forgot, but the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2005 was pretty stacked yet again. Let's just go over these names. Iron Sheik, Nikolai Volkov, Paul Orndorff, Mr. Wonderful, Jimmy Hart, Cowboy Bob Orton, Roddy Piper, and Hulk Hogan. A good plethora of top names. Three of these names headlined the first ever WrestleMania, so they put in a lot of effort. They had Sheiky Baby. Nikolai Volkov, I like, but he was more of just a tag team guy for me. Jimmy Hart, a very entertaining manager. Cowboy Bob Orton, good to see him. It's very clear that they gave him the Hall of Fame induction because he was going to continue to stick around for a while and be the manager of Randy Orton. After this Hall of Fame, Hulk Hogan came out of retirement for a couple years until he officially laced down the boots. So yeah, I'm very happy with this class. Pretty solid class. I know all of these names. Yippee. On to the main event. The official end to the Reign of Terror. Triple H versus Batista for the World Heavyweight Championship. Batista won the Royal Rumble after the match got restarted when both men fell down. Obviously, that was a big botch. Batista eventually threw John Cena out, and he became the Royal Rumble winner. But the story here was great. We wanted Evolution to be bigger than it ever was, of having Batista go to SmackDown, and Evolution would dominate both Raw and SmackDown with both champions on top. But the fact that Triple H tried to play mind games on Batista, getting a limousine with fake goofy horns to think it was JBL. This is one of the coolest segments ever where, like, oh, is Batista going to sign a SmackDown? He does this, does this. Batista bomb. Batista stays on Raw. Batista gets tired of Triple H's games. He is ready to be World Heavyweight Champion and put an end to the Reign of Terror once and for good. Brilliant story. It was very clear that this is kind of what they wanted with Triple H and Randy Orton. But again, Randy Orton just didn't work as a face. Batista was a way much better face. This is what Wardlow and MJF should have been. And then we get to the match. Cool entrance from Triple H coming out to Motorhead yet again. Batista wasn't at I Walk Alone yet. He just had the typical. Eventually, we get I Walk Alone from Batista. The match was really good. For the most part, Batista gets more of the upper hand. It was very good that they had Ric Flair. I have complained about Ric Flair's interference in matches, but this one worked, especially because it was a cap off to the end of Evolution, because after this, there was no more Evolution for a while until 2014, but we don't talk about that. Batista basically puts an end to Ric Flair on the side, but then bloodies up Triple H. We have Batista just have that power bomb, Batista bomb. 1, 2, 3, Batista's your world champion. So the show ends with John Cena and Batista. They didn't do the Eddie Benoit from last year. They didn't need to do that. They have Batista had his own moment with the fireworks, with the confetti, and that's how you close the show. I thought the show closed off great. The mid card was so good. It is an incredible mid card. I wasn't a big fan of the sumo match, but I can let it slide. I wish the JBL John Cena match was wrestled differently. Because it's basically foreshadowed the rest of John Cena's career, the way he wrestles, of him getting beat up and then coming in like Superman. So basically this was the precursor to that. I think that the mid card was heavily strong. It was the debut of Money in the Bank. We got Ray and Eddie, Taker and Randy, Kurt Angle, and Shawn Michaels. Those four matches are just top tier, great for me. And it makes the show what it is today. And then the moments of Batista and John Cena basically being your next top guys helped it a lot. I'm just giving you my honest opinion. I have nostalgia for this show because this was the precursor to me becoming a wrestling fan. So for that, I'm going to have to give it an A minus. Some amazing matches. I can't really get mad. I was very happy with every result, if I'm being quite honest. And this was the start of the John Cena and Batista being your new top faces moving forward. So I can't really get mad about that. But anyways, thank you all for watching this. I hope you're enjoying these WrestleMania review series. I'm very happy. I can't believe I'm at the halfway point now, and I'm moving on to WrestleMania 22 very soon. Take care, everybody.